Welcome to our deep dive into Brandon Sanderson's Mistborn.
Oh,
We're going to be
yeah.
focusing on the first book, The Final Empire, and you shared some excerpts with us.
Yes.
I'm excited to unpack this world and these characters and the lore.
It's going to be fun.
A little heads up to listeners, if you haven't read the book yet, there might be some spoilers.
Yeah, definitely.
Proceed with caution.
Wow. All right. So, Mistborn, right? It's this world shrouded in ash and mist, where this tyrannical Lord Ruler, he reigns supreme. And what's so striking is how Sanderson just immerses us in this oppressive atmosphere, just like right from the very beginning. Like
Yeah.
we're introduced to the Ska, these people who are oppressed and they live in constant fear, not only of the Lord Ruler's enforcers, these brutal inquisitors, but also of the mysterious mists themselves.
It's definitely grim.
Yeah.
And then we meet Kelsier,
Yes.
this legendary Mistborn who's known as the Survivor.
Yeah.
He not only has allomancy, which we'll get into, but he's also got this incredible charisma and this rebellious spirit.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Makes him so compelling, and his backstory is tragic.
Yeah.
His wife was killed by the Lord Ruler,
Oh, yeah.
and he escapes from the pits of Hassan, which is an inescapable prison. So all of that is fueling his drive.
Yeah, definitely his backstory really adds a lot of depth to his character,
Yeah.
And it's not just about this revenge, it's about like dismantling this entire system that allows for this type of cruelty to exist. So Kelsier's ambition is not just personal.
Right.
It's fueled by this like desire for justice and a better future for the Ska.
Exactly. And then there's Vin, a street urchin who's secretly a Mistborn.
Oh, yeah.
Starts off as this really hardened young woman.
Understandably.
Yeah, from this life of hardship.
Yeah.
And Kelsier takes her under his wing,
Hmm.
and we just witness this incredible transformation.
I love her journey,
Mm.
She just embodies these themes of hope and rebellion, and not just on this like societal level, but also a personal one. As she trains with Kelsier, she's learning to control her allomantic powers, but she's also confronting these inner demons. It's really cool to see how her distrust gradually evolves into trust and even like this sense of belonging as she becomes part of the crew.
Yeah, and that crew is quite the mix of personalities.
It is.
We've got Elon Venture, this idealistic nobleman, and he's drawn to Vin despite their very different backgrounds.
Totally.
And then you've got Sorzized, the Talisman Keeper, who brings this wisdom and this deep understanding of history and lore.
Yeah, Sorzized is crucial because he represents the preservation of knowledge. Like in this world where information is so controlled,
Yeah.
the Talisman are like these living libraries and they hold on to the secrets that the Lord Ruler tried to erase.
And they got all the other members of the crew. Doxson, who handles all the logistics and planning. Breeze, who can manipulate emotions. The Bruiser. Ham, the demolitions expert. Clubs.
Clubs.
Yeah, so good.
I mean, each member has this unique skill set that makes them such a formidable force. Yeah, I think that diversity of skills is deliberate on Sanderson's part because it highlights teamwork.
Yes.
It's like individuals with all these different strengths can come together to achieve a common goal, and it reflects the Ska themselves, right?
Yes.
It emphasizes their potential to rise above their oppression.
Okay, so we've talked about the characters, but let's delve into allomancy itself.
The magic.
Yes, the magic system
Yes.
is so integral to this world because the Lord Ruler uses it to maintain control, but Kelsier's trying to use it to dismantle that very power structure.
Exactly. And I love how Sanderson explains allomancy because it feels more like science than magic, right?
Yeah.
There are rules, there are limitations, and it makes it feel real.
Yeah.
For example, if you burn pewter,
Yeah.
you get enhanced strength, speed, healing, which is why Vin and Ham are such powerful fighters.
Yeah. And then there's tin,
Tin.
which enhances the senses, which is especially useful with all that mist.
Yeah.
Right. Vin relies on tin a lot to see and hear really clearly, even in that thick fog.
It's interesting how each power reflects something about the character that uses them, right? So Vin's reliance on Tin for enhanced perception speaks to how observant she is, how she notices all these details that other people might miss, which makes her such a good thief, and later, of course, a Mistborn warrior.
Right. And then there's steel, which allows pushing and pulling on metal.
Oh, yeah.
And we see Kelsier and Vin use this to do crazy acrobatics, leaping across rooftops, manipulating coins as projectiles.
Right.
Remember when Kelsier escapes from the Lord Ruler's guards by propelling himself through the air?
So cool.
So cool. And it's not just spectacle, it's strategic, right?
Yeah, it is, and it also reflects his mind, right? So Kelsier's mastery of steel shows that he's a very technical thinker, and he uses it to outmaneuver his opponents, and he turns the environment to his advantage.
But allomancy is not without its limitations. And mistings can only burn one metal at a time,
Right.
and overuse leads to metal sickness.
Yeah, you don't want that.
No. And there's also a hierarchy within allomancy where some metals are considered more powerful or rare than others.
Yeah, and that hierarchy plays into the power dynamics of the final empire, right? It mirrors the social hierarchy.
Yes.
So those who can burn the rarer metals like Akkadium, they hold a lot of sway, and of course, the Lord Ruler controls the supply of Akkadium, which allows him to have these precognitive abilities, which makes him so difficult to defeat.
Exactly. And then there's this mystery surrounding the 11th metal,
Ooh, yes.
shrouded in legend, and Kelsier believes it might be the key to defeating the Lord Ruler. But what it is and how it works remains a mystery.
I love that. Sanderson is so good at hooking you, introducing these tantalizing elements and hinting at this immense power and potential, but then he leaves us with more questions than answers.
It's a great cliffhanger.
It is.
And that's just scratching the surface of this world that Sanderson has created.
It's amazing.
We haven't even touched on the deeper themes of rebellion, of trust, and this corrupting influence of power, which we'll get into later.
Definitely. It's going to be a good one.
Okay, so we've talked about the world, these amazing characters, the magic system. But what really struck me were the themes woven throughout the final empire.
Oh, yeah.
This rebellion that Kelsier ignites isn't just about overthrowing a tyrant.
No.
It's about hope
Oh,
and trust
yeah.
and the corrupting nature of power itself.
Absolutely. And those themes become even more pronounced as the story unfolds. We see Kelsier rally the Ska.
Right.
And he inspires them to believe in something bigger than themselves, right? To fight for this future free from oppression.
Yeah.
But as we discussed earlier, he's also driven by this personal vendetta against the Lord Ruler, which raises questions about his motives.
Yeah.
And the means that he's willing to use.
Right. There's a complexity to him that makes him so interesting. He's this charismatic leader, and he's willing to sacrifice everything, but he's also able to make really ruthless decisions.
He is.
And then there's Vin,
Yeah.
who's dealing with her own trust issues.
Totally.
She's been betrayed and abandoned so many times that she doesn't really believe in anyone.
Even Kelsier.
Yeah.
It's hard for her.
Yeah. It makes sense, though.
But it's a powerful exploration of how, trauma can shape someone.
Right.
So she starts off guarded and suspicious.
Understandably so.
Relying on her instincts for survival.
Yes.
But as she interacts with Kelsier and the crew, she starts to see how important trust and loyalty are.
Yes.
It's not easy for her, but she starts to let down those walls and allow herself to be a little bit vulnerable.
Which is so powerful, right?
Yeah.
It allows her to connect with others on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And those bonds are essential to the success of this whole rebellion.
Definitely.
And speaking of connections, there's this really interesting dynamic between Vin and Eland Venture.
Oh, yeah.
He's a nobleman, so he's part of the class that oppresses the Ska, but he's so drawn to Vin and her independent spirit.
I love that their relationship challenges these rigid social barriers.
Yes.
And Eland, while he has good intentions, he's kind of blind to the plight of the Ska at first.
Right.
He's looking at the world through his privilege.
Yeah.
But Vin forces him to see the reality of their oppression.
It's true.
And on the other hand, Eland's idealism and his belief in change really influence Vin.
I like how they each represent a different side of the rebellion.
Yeah.
Vin, with her experience of hardship,
Yeah.
embodies that anger, that desperation of the oppressed, and Eland, with his intellectual approach and his connections to the nobility, he brings this strategy to the movement.
Exactly. They complement each other. And
Right.
their relationship highlights how complex social change is, right? It's not just about overthrowing a tyrant.
Right.
It's about taking down systems of oppression that have existed for centuries.
Centuries.
So it requires passion,
Yes.
but also pragmatism, and they come to understand that.
I love it. And Saisley plays such a vital role, too.
Yeah.
He's not just a keeper of knowledge. He's a mentor to Vin.
He's a confidant.
Yes. Guiding her understanding of allomancy and also her personal growth.
Yeah, his wisdom and his patience are so important to Vin, especially after she loses Kelsier.
Yeah.
He's like this continuity of knowledge and tradition, a link to this past that the Lord Ruler tried to erase.
So important.
He reminds Vin and us as readers that history can't be erased so easily, and knowledge is so powerful.
Absolutely. And Kelsier's plan to take down the Lord Ruler is so intricate.
Oh, it is.
He's not just fighting him head on. He's playing this long game that requires a lot of patience and careful planning.
It's a masterpiece.
It is, but that makes his downfall so tragic, you know?
He is.
Despite all of his planning, he's betrayed,
Yeah, he is.
which reminds us that even the most brilliant plans can be undone.
It's human weakness.
Yes.
You know, Kelsier's death really changes everything.
Yes.
It's a turning point for Vin and the whole rebellion because it forces everyone to step up to take ownership.
They have to figure out what to do next.
Yeah, and forge their own path forward.
And it's after Kelsier dies that Vin really comes into her own.
She does.
You know, she becomes the leader.
Yeah.
Drawing strength from her grief.
She channels her rage.
Yes, and she's determined to see Kelsier's vision through.
It's amazing. She embraces who she is, a Mistborn.
Yes.
And not just as like a way to survive, but as a weapon
Yeah.
to fight tyranny.
Yeah.
She realizes she doesn't need anyone to protect her or to guide her.
Right.
She can make her own destiny, and that's inspiring, you know?
It is, but the Lord Ruler, he's a tough opponent.
He is.
It's not just that he's physically strong, he's also manipulative.
Oh, yeah.
Right. He can control emotions on this massive scale.
With his atium.
Yeah, which makes it so hard for the rebellion to gain any ground.
And that's where the 11th metal comes in.
Yeah.
Kelsier thought it was the key,
Right.
but he's gone now.
Right, so now Vin has to figure it out.
She's got to unravel the secrets, harness its power, and maybe break the Lord Ruler's control.
Such a cliffhanger.
It is.
The stakes are so high because the entire world hinges on her succeeding.
And will she? That's the question.
Okay, so we left off with a lot of questions, right?
Mm.
Will Vin be able to step into this leadership role that Kelsier left behind?
Right.
What's the secret of the 11th metal? And can they actually beat the Lord Ruler?
Right.
He seems pretty invincible.
He does.
As we get into this final part of the Final Empire, things get really intense.
They do. It's the culmination of everything, all the characters, the magic, the themes of rebellion and trust. And Vin's journey in this last part is just so compelling because she's forced to confront not only the Lord Ruler, but also her own inner demons.
And she's dealing with betrayals, uncovering truths, and also the 11th metal.
Yes.
Remember that scene where she infiltrates Critic Shaw?
Yeah.
Again,
Oh, yeah.
but she's alone this time.
It's a high-stakes mission, and it really shows her growth as a Mistborn and a leader.
Yes.
She's not just, using her power anymore. She's thinking strategically. She's using her cunning. She's figuring out the Lord Ruler's psychology.
Yeah.
And she uses that to get ahead.
And then there's the Well of Ascension. This hidden chamber with all the adium and what looks like mist, but it's solid.
Right.
It's so cool.
And this is where the Lord Ruler reveals his true form,
Yes.
which is this younger version of himself, and we get this glimpse into his backstory.
Right, and why he is the way he is.
It's this great twist because the Lord Ruler has been presented as this mythical, almost like godlike figure,
Right.
but then he becomes so human.
Yeah.
We see his past, what he struggled with, the fact that he's been immortal for centuries, and it doesn't make what he did okay, but it adds this complexity to him.
It really makes you think about everything you thought you knew about him.
Yes.
And then we have this big confrontation between Vin and the Lord Ruler.
This is it.
It's not just physical.
It's this clash of ideologies, It's hope versus control, freedom versus tyranny.
And Vin, she just keeps adapting.
She does.
She figures out that the Lord Ruler's power comes from the atium,
Right?
and she cuts him off
She's
in
brilliant.
this really cool way.
Yes, it's a great scene when she pulls off those atium bracelets.
Oh, I know.
It's like she's taking away his control, his power.
And his invincibility.
And it reminds us that even the most powerful people, they have weaknesses,
Yes.
and you can find a way to get to them.
But this victory doesn't come without loss.
No,
Kelsier is killed,
it's tragic.
even with all that planning.
Yeah, and it shows the cost of this fight, these personal sacrifices.
Yeah.
And Vin has to deal with this grief, but she keeps going.
And she becomes the leader.
She does.
She rallies the crew.
Brings everyone together.
Yeah, and they take down the Lord Ruler's forces.
It's everything coming together. Her powers, her strategy, her purpose.
Yeah.
She's the hope of the rebellion.
And then that final fight with the Lord Ruler.
It's epic.
It's like so big. She taps into this power that she didn't even know she had.
The mists.
Yeah, the mists.
And even the Lord Ruler can't stop her.
I know. It's just, wow.
It makes you realize that there's so much more to learn about Elemancy.
Right, like Kelsey didn't even know everything.
Exactly. And that last scene with Vin at Keep Venture with Elin,
Oh, yeah.
it's perfect. It gives you closure, but it also hints at, like, what could happen next.
Yeah, the Lord Ruler is gone, But rebuilding isn't going to be easy.
Right, and we still have those questions about the 11th metal.
In Vin and the Mists,
Right.
it's a story that stays with you.
It does.
The world, the characters, that magic system.
It makes you think.
Yeah, about power, about what we're willing to sacrifice, how to make a better world.
Yeah, even when things are really bad.
It reminds us that change is possible,
Yes,
and that sometimes heroes come from the most unexpected places.
that's right.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Final Empire, we'd love to know what you think. What really stood out to you? What are you still thinking about? Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep diving deep.